I wish someone would have told me, one, this is not your fault. I think that most moms and dads are different, and it's a different process for dads. But for moms, I think we could fix everything, and when you can't, there's this feeling of I've failed.
Welcome to the Marvelous Moms Club podcast. Discover yourself, break out of mediocrity, and become the mom you've always aspired to be. Here's your host, Kirsten Tyrell.
Hey Marvelous Moms, welcome to another episode of Marvelous Moms Club. I'm so excited to share another episode with you. I don't know if you've noticed, but I get excited every time I have a new episode because it means I get to make a new friend, get to hang out with another mom and hear her story, which always is such a great experience for me. So without further ado, this is Claire Aleman. Did I say it right?
You did. That's it.
She is a mom of 6, and she was referred to me by another guest, Shannon, who was on the podcast, and I'm excited to let you guys get to know her as I get to know her today. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much.
I'm excited to have you and excited to hear your story and about your mommy journey and what you're doing right now. So why don't you jump in and just tell everybody the ages and stages of your kids and what mom life is like.
Okay, so I have 6 kids. I have an 18-year-old named Kiara, who's a senior in high school. I have a 16-year-old named Lily, and she's also in high school, and she's special needs. I have twins that are 14, Elijah and Eden. My son Elijah is also autistic. I have Irish twins that are 7 and 8, and they feel like twins.
I bet.
And those are Noah and Levi, and Noah is also on the autism spectrum. So we have 3 kids, all varying needs with autism, all different skills and mindsets, all totally different. I mean, basically all 6 of them are different, but they're not, we have some challenges there. But Lily, being my oldest, is probably the most severely affected by autism. My 16-year-old. Mm-hmm. She was diagnosed when she was 2, and I had 4 kids under 4.
Oh my
so it was
gosh.
a hectic time, to say the least.
Yeah.
So I just had the twins, and Lily was getting diagnosed, and she had a whole other gamut of issues just physically that she had required a bunch of surgeries, and I was a young mom, like trying to figure it all out. And back in the day, autism wasn't as prevalent as it is now. So, we had dial-up internet. So trying to do research was like every night listening. Every night you'd Google like autism and then wait 20 minutes and you're like, come on.
Oh my gosh.
And I would spend like hours at Barnes and Noble, like trying to just figure out what was going on and try everything I could. And, every diet and every suggestion to try and fix her, and it was saying it was a trying time is like a total understatement. It was like, it changed who I am and who I was and for the good, for sure. Mm-hmm. But I was never, if you would have told me when I was 18, like wanting to be a mom so bad, to flash back to high school when people would ask me what I wanted to be, it was like, I want to be a mom. Aww. I would like sit at the feet of someone that was like, what's your prayer request? I'd be like, just that I want to be a mom, just want kids and I want to be married. And so I got it, the Lord really, has blessed us with an abundance of children, but we also, with that comes the trials, and I had to kind of go through a period where I learned that, God never promised that this life was going to be easy. Mm-hmm. We kind of think that in the back of our minds, well, I'm doing this right. And so what's going to happen? Like, God's going to reward me, right? And I went through a hard time trying to figure out why all this had happened to me. Not only one kid with autism, but, 2 and then 3. And every time it's the same struggle. I write about it in a blog post I did like years and years ago when I was trying to be cool like you.
Oh my gosh.
I could do a blog on top of having 6 kids. There's like 2 posts.
Hey, I don't blog, for the record. I put show notes on a blog. This is my format. Speaking is so much more fun than typing.
It's easier. Yeah. I'm going to try that.
There you go.
But I wrote about like every diagnosis and how every time it's like, it doesn't get easier. Every time it's the same process of like, okay, I need to fix this. I know what to do.
Do you feel like it's harder in a way because you know what is ahead? Like you're no longer ignorant to what you're going to have to do to facilitate like some level of normalcy for that child? Like,
And I also think it's hard because, like I said in the beginning, like every single one of them is different.
Right.
Like Lily's needs are totally different than Noah's. And, you know, where she excels academically, he doesn't. And he has more social skills. And so it's just a matter of like, I guess just accepting what they're given. I mean, and all the kids, that's kind of what you have to do with kids. It's like they're all given something for free. You know, we all, like, I'm really good at, you know, reading. Reading always came easy to me. And math was not. And I always tell my kids, like, you got math for free. Now you got to work at the other thing, you know? Like,
I like that.
Can't all have everything, you know? Yeah. And so I kind of look at it that way. All my kids kind of have their challenges, some more than others. But I didn't ever think I would have 6. That was never in my plan.
Really?
Never. Oh.
Do you feel like it was just hard to stop after twins? Because you're like, but that was kind of like a 2-for-1 and I want to be pregnant again. And then you're like, but maybe one more time.
Well, after Lily, so I had Kiara and Lily, my husband had cancer.
Oh my gosh.
And they told us that we wouldn't have any more kids. So I was just resigned to have 2 girls and kind of be done, you know, and Lily had issues before she was even diagnosed with autism. So I'm like, maybe this is just God saying, this is all you get, you know, and
all you can handle.
Yeah. And then I got pregnant after a couple miscarriages. I was like, we can have kids. And we got pregnant with twins.
Were they just thinking from like chemotherapy that he wouldn't be able to like be fertile anymore?
He had testicular cancer at a young age.
Oh my goodness. They were
like, it's going to be hard.
Wow.
And actually, you know, when Lily was going through all of her things at the hospital, I rolled past the urologist. I was like, no kids, huh? And I had a quad stroller with 4. I was like, 4 now. And he's like, really? I didn't think that would happen. I'm like, okay, yeah. He even went as far as saying, like, we should freeze eggs and we should go, you know. And I was like, I'm not going to go down that route. But we didn't need to. So. Apparently.
Proved you wrong. I was meant to have 6 of these.
I should have bet him something.
Seriously.
But I didn't foresee or plan any of this, but it's been quite a ride. So
I bet it has. That is amazing. 6 kids. And it's so crazy too. I feel like most of the time I interview moms who have very small kids or like they're very in the middle. And you've got one across the spectrum. Like you've got your teenagers and you've still got kids, younger children. And it's funny to talk to somebody who's like, when I had to look up this stuff, it was dial-up internet. And I still think it's crazy to wrap my mind around the fact that the internet is so new that it wasn't even around 20 years ago. Or maybe, was it like 20 years exactly that it came out? Something like that.
I've been married for 20 and like Lily was, you know, she was diagnosed at 2. So like 14 years ago.
Yeah.
I was on like Juno.com and like waiting to get linked up to AOL. Like, give me some research.
Oh my gosh.
And now it's like so easy, you know, and our kids have everything at like the swipe of a finger. And it's crazy to like watch them in school and see the difference from when you and I were in school.
Yeah.
And like the work of like having to know how to use a library even, like, you know, like rolling out the Rolodex cards and like looking up like the decimal
Dewey
system
Decimal,
thing. Yeah.
Which I never figured out. I always thought it was more complicated than it was. I think I did know what I was doing, but I hated that part about going to the library.
Yeah. And now you just like walk up to the librarian and she just like, we're over there, you know,
the
like
computer, look it up.
Exactly. So I tried to explain that to my kids. I'm like, it's so much easier now. Like you guys, your facts and essays, you just Google it and you find it. That was not how we did school. That was not how we did school.
I know. Isn't it crazy? It's awesome really though. It's cool to see where they'll go with that. And I know like for you haven't necessarily kept up with a blog, but you have an Instagram and you've also created like a Facebook support group for moms of special needs kids. You've co-founded that. That's amazing. Don't you feel like that's one of the best tools, like to create those support systems online?
Luckily, we actually have a group that meets up in person too.
Oh.
So one time a month we meet at our church in Irvine, Calvary Living Word, and we do like a mom support group for moms with special needs, any kind of special needs, you know, it doesn't have to be autism. And actually our Facebook page, we don't get that many people. We were trying to like facilitate, like, let's talk, let's use this as a forum, but it's just doesn't end up being that. I think moms with special needs kids, I don't know, I tend to be like this too. I'm more one-on-one. Mm-hmm. And there's something about when you have a child with autism or any kind of special need, you go to kind of into protective mode.
Right.
Like everything is kind of, you know, things are hurtful. Someone says something and it's like, like you're just kind of operating at a 9 all the time. That's how I always explain it to people. Like, I'm just like sometimes you struggle, you're just on the verge of tears all day. Like I'm at a 9,
Yeah.
And that's why we did the group, like meeting up once a month, because it's just a place to be together and to kind of let go. And like, it's a safe place to cry. It's a safe place to laugh, and just actually physically being together. But I'm hoping that we can also use it as a form eventually too. Cause I mean, that's the era we're living in.
It is true. There's so many people, I feel like we'll share that in the show notes, the link to it, because I feel like there's so many people who need that. I was just on our Facebook group today and saw a mom, like kind of just looking to she didn't have special needs kids, just looking to connect with other moms. And she tried doing the physical meetups, and it was just really sparse. And so any kind of way that we can connect people from across the continent, instead of, limiting just to, it's amazing how many lives you can help, and and how much feedback that you could get and give. It's just mind-boggling to me.
I know. I think back to like when Lily was diagnosed, like how much I would have loved that. I mean, I was going to support groups and like actually physically meeting with people and like going to people's houses that were mentoring me and just trying to get as much as I could. And now one of the ladies that used to mentor me, she's really involved in like the autism movement. She speaks like nationally, and I could talk to her all the time, like on Skype. And I'm like, if we would have had this back in the day, it's so much easier than sitting in your house and like taking notes,
Exactly.
So yeah, it's a huge endeavor that we're taking on. But we've been meeting for like 4 years, and I feel like God has put it there to, help me just as much help other people, because, it's just as much a support group for me to be with other moms that have similar issues. So it's been a true godsend.
That's amazing. So what would you say to a mom who, because I know so many of them, even just since I started this podcast, I have had some other guests on here who've had children with, like, on the autism spectrum or special needs. Mm-hmm. And it's nice to have this information to share when somebody's like, I'm kind of wondering, I'm not sure if this is an issue, or even if they know it's an issue, what would you offer as like words of support or encouragement to a parent who is going through the initial diagnosis? Or like, what do you think is the hardest part? And what do you think they need to hear?
I wish someone would have told me, one, this is not your fault.
Oh,
I think that most moms and dads are different, and and it's a different process for dads, but for moms, I think we could fix everything, and when you can't, there's this feeling of I've failed, or I've done something, and then you tend to go back through your whole pregnancy like, what did I do different this time, and what could I? You could really like put yourself in a really horrible place. So one, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. And two is to ask for help when you need it. And that's something that I never did. There was like a shame in it too. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want people to see like how my house is so chaotic and how Lily runs everywhere and makes these weird noises. And it was like, because it was so new back then, there wasn't as many kids as there is now. And
I felt like people just didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
Acknowledge
and I felt like people were going to judge her, and then that would make me mad, and then I'm going to go all mama bear on them, and then it's going to get ugly. So I just felt like it's safer for me to not go anywhere. It's safer for me to not inviting anyone over. I'm just going to keep my family in this bubble. And that's like the worst thing you could do.
So isolating. Right.
Yeah. And moms don't go to church when they have kids with special needs. They don't go out in public because it's just a constant explaining or constant looking around, looking at people, looking at your child, and it's heartbreaking.
Oh, that breaks my heart just thinking about it, because I know that we've all done it, not even like with the intent to be judgmental, just we've all seen the kid at the store melting down. And nowadays I am appreciative that there's more awareness, that it's like, my mom's generation would have been like, oh my gosh, like they don't have any control over their kids. Now we can acknowledge there is one of two things going on here. Either the mom really doesn't have control over her kid, or they might have some kind problem. And
either way, it's like, give her some grace.
Exactly.
Either one of those.
Either way, she's doing the best she can. Yes,
yeah, exactly.
That's true.
But we've acknowledged, we've actually come across with some people that are just like, how do you even say that to people you don't know? When Lily was first diagnosed, people were like, you should just spank her. I'm like, who are you?
Oh my gosh, like, did I ask?
You don't even know us, or people, thinking that my husband was kidnapping her because he used to have to throw her over his shoulder to we got to get out of here. She's in meltdown mode. And they're like, help that child. We're like, no, she's fine.
She's ours.
Meltdown. She's ours,
Oh
so
my goodness.
We've had, a whole gamut of trying to deal with like the public. But like, I think the main thing I tell moms now is like, just to to seek help in people that are willing to give it to you. Because I've learned that if someone says they want to help you, they truly do.
Yeah.
Like and then if they don't, then you'll learn the hard way. Like,
exactly.
Okay, they didn't mean it,
Yeah.
But most of the people that are still my friends that understand Lily and love Lily were there in the beginning and were willing to help us and were willing to embrace her and love her. And those are the people that will be around us forever, and that love her and understand her.
That's so sweet. I love that.
Yeah, it's been quite a road. So, and that, I think that's one of the biggest callings on my life, is finding those moms that have the newly diagnosed children and just kind of encouraging them in any way that I can. That it's just, it does get easier, which is hard to believe when you're in those moments. Like, it does get easier. Because it becomes your norm, and you never think it's going to work that way, but it does. It's like, okay, this is the norm, and there's some days when I get to the end of myself and, Lily does this thing where she movie talks and she'll just repeat parts in a movie over and over. And if I've had like a long day and I'm like, oh, Lils, like, I don't know if I could hear that part of SpongeBob one more time. Could you not do it? And there's other days where I don't even hear it,
right.
Like, it's just my norm. And I hear it in the back of my mind all the time, and, or I'll say it with her and she'll laugh. But, we all have our good days and bad days, like, and we all make mistakes. And that's, I think, one of the questions that you asked is like, what makes you marvelous? And I was like, oh, I'm going to ponder that for a while, because one, I don't think I would ever say that about myself,
Nobody feels really comfortable with that.
I'm like, I'm glad someone thinks I'm marvelous. That's great. Feels great. Like I love that feeling. And my kids think I'm marvelous, and that's what at the end of the day really matters, that my kids think I'm, trying my hardest and doing my best. And with teenagers, it's hard,
Yeah.
Without, even, my daughter who's 18 that is going to go off to college soon. Like, I was talking to my best friend today. We've had a crazy year, and, we've lost someone really close to us. My best friend lost her daughter rather tragically this year. Mm-hmm. And I have never felt so close to God than after this happened. Like, we've all grown so much. We've all had to learn the hard way, like what life really looks at like. Yeah. And even my kids, like losing someone that was like a cousin to them. I think I've just had to learn to acknowledge, like, I make mistakes,
right.
Like and telling my kids that, especially my teens, like, I shouldn't have said that to you, and being big enough of a person to say to your teenage, especially daughters, like, I made a mistake. Can you forgive me? And that's kind of what I've learned this year is like, we don't have all the time in the world,
right?
We don't, we're not promised anything, and it's sad, and it's something that I lose sleep over sometimes. But at the same time, it's like, I want to do the best I can every day. And if I can't, then I'm going to acknowledge that I didn't and move on,
Yeah.
I'm going to beat myself up over it. It's hard.
I love that. That is good perspective right there. I can see why you were like nominated to be on the podcast with all of those words of wisdom. I love it.
It's an honor to be nominated.
But you're here. You were more than just nominated. You made it on. And now that I have such limited space, like, that's a big deal. I'm like proud of that.
Super excited. I'll wait for my trophy in the mail.
Okay.
Can't wait.
It might be as big as a Tootsie Roll, but I will send you one.
I love candy. Let's do this.
That's so awesome. Okay, so you used to, on top of this, having 6 children, you did work as well.
Yeah.
And that recently changed. Up until 2 months ago. That is through all 6 children. Like, you never took, you took maternity leave, I'm sure, but did you take chunks of time off? Wow.
No, my husband is awesome. He was a stay-at-home dad through most of it.
Oh my goodness. He needs to be on here with you right now.
I'm going to get him. I'm out. Let's call him. He, with the last 2 especially, I started back at work when the twins were born. So I was home with those first 4 up until Lily was diagnosed. And then we had like some crazy circumstances happen where we had a car fire and all my husband's tools that he had for his general contracting business were destroyed.
Oh my gosh,
and
your
we were
life,
like,
man.
No,
you're one of those people with all those stories. Yeah, for real.
And that was like everything turned. Like, I just started, working in the lending industry. My sister had just got a job and she's like, just come work here for a little while and make some money while Gus is trying to figure everything out. And then 14 years later,
oh my
I was still there. I was like, how did this happen? I don't understand.
Apparently you loved it, though.
I did. I mean, I love working.
Uh-huh.
And you know what I've learned in the last 60 days is that working is a lot easier for me.
Than being a stay-at-home mom.
Being home. I don't know how I did everything I did and worked.
Yeah.
Because now, like, my kids are like, can you do this for me? Can you do this? And I'm like, what were you doing before I was home? Like, were you just hitching rides places? What was going on? But now, like, they're, like, utilizing me because I'm home. And, I mean, I love it. Mm-hmm. But I told my husband the other day, I'm like, I have never been this busy. I'm like, I don't want you to imagine me at home, like, watching The View, because that is not what's happening.
That is
like,
not reality.
That's not what's happening. I'm like, I'm going to the dentist. If I'm not at the dentist, I'm calling the doctor or the dentist to make an appointment, or the orthodontist, or I'm going to the school to drop off something they forgot, because all of a sudden they're forgetting everything because they know I'm home. Mom will bring my binder later. She's a pushover. Like, it's a full-time job being a stay-at-home mom. Yeah. They weren't kidding.
I know, right? You're like, those moms weren't joking. All those mommy war things. Like, I thought my life was so busy.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I have a newfound respect for people that have stayed home the whole time, or homeschooling moms especially. Like,
oh my goodness.
It's just been. So I'm looking for a job.
Hey, I have a great idea for you. We'll shamelessly plug my Amazon course. You should just start selling stuff on Amazon. That's what my husband and I do, and we don't have to go to a job.
I'm telling you, we're going to talk later, you and I.
Okay, sounds good.
For sure. I'm telling you. Now that I'm at home, I'm like, my kids need me. And that's another thing that I'm going through. Like, my daughter's, graduating high school. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm running out of time. Like, I have this, I'm having a hard time sleeping at night, because I'm like, wow, with Kiara, like, how many more years is she going to really listen to me and value my opinion? Hopefully for her whole life,
right?
Cross his fingers, and
it'll be better. I think it gets better. She'll start valuing you more as she gets older and she realizes you know stuff.
Hope so. And we've had, like, our ups and downs, but this year I'm like, you may not live here all the time. Like, you're getting older. And she's like, do you want me out? I'm like, kind of.
Like, I've invested 18 years. I kind of do.
But they say, like, that happens. People are like, oh, when it gets closer to college, like, you're going to be like, oh, it's time for you to go. I'm like, never going to feel that way. This year I was like, Kiara, are you going to go away to college? She's like, why? Do you want me to? I'm like, I don't know. Like, we're open to it,
Let's just put it on the table. Fly little bird.
Spread your wings, But it's funny because it truly does happen in that way. You're just like, you want them to learn, and there's only so much they could learn, and we shelter our kids so much. I'm like the total helicopter mom. Yesterday at Noah's school, I had his backpack on my back and his lunchbox in my hand, and I'm putting it on his hook and putting it in his cubby, and he's like walking around, and his teacher's like, Mrs. Aleman, is there any way you could let him do that? I was like, oh.
Yikes, I'm that mom.
I guess he should be doing that. But instead, he walking and he hands me all his stuff, and I just take it mindlessly. Like, my kid needs me, like, I'm going to be there for him. Not thinking, like, these are skills he needs. Like, he needs to know where his backpack, but, I've done that with all of them. I'm a total, I want to fix everything. Like, I've made horrible decisions as far as, like, talking to kids that were bullying Kiara. Like, when, Kiara was in 4th grade, she had a horrible, horrible year. And, like, the girls were just so mean. They had birthday parties. They didn't invite her. And it was just horrible. And one day she got in the car and she's just crying. And I'm like, I can't take this anymore. I'm going to go talk to those girls. And I get out of the car and I slam the door. And she's like, Mom, no.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. And I walk up to them. And immediately I'm like, this is a horrible idea. Because I'm looking down at these, like, tiny 8-year-olds. I'm like, hey, let's be nicer to my daughter. And I just, like, walk away. I'm like, that was a horrible idea. Why did I do that? I'm a mom. I have to, like, keep myself in check. But, I want to fix everything. I mean, that's basically the problem, is that my kids tell me that there's an issue and I want to fix it. And I feel like we all go through that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. How can you not want to fix it? Like, I think that would be very abnormal to hear your child going through something and not want to fix it for them. But it is, like, it's important to learn your place, I guess, and let them figure stuff out, because it is Oh, it's so hard. Such a fine line. We're only starting into that in our life right now. And I'm just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want this part. Let's just skip.
This year is like the first year that I really like with Kiara. I mean, and she's 18. She's a senior that I'm like, I don't know. Good luck with that. And I'm like, it pains me. Like, I'll turn around and walk away from her and like bite my fist. Like, just good luck. You know, like, I'll be praying for you. Do your work. I don't know.
I'll be in your corner when you're ready.
Yeah. Google it. I don't know.
Oh,
like,
man.
It's rough, but like I have, like you said, I have all different ages. So I still have so much to learn. I don't think I'm quite, haven't hit the pinnacle of mom success yet, nor will I ever probably, but I have a lot of wisdom to impart to anyone that wants it as far as, just coping and getting through and just not being hard on yourself. I think that's the main thing that I tell people is give yourself a break, I'm not perfect.
That's a good takeaway. I've totally gotten that from you, definitely, in listening. I feel like anybody in that situation, you're going to learn some things. Having 3 children with special needs, you're going to learn a lot of patience. You're going to learn a lot about yourself. And definitely, like, it's that baptism by fire into parenting and just life and understanding the bigger picture. So I totally get that message from you. Like, be nice to yourself and things will work out. You can't control everything. As hearing, like, you sound like you love to control things. You just admitted that.
That comes through.
Just a little bit. So, but to be in a situation where you don't have control has to have taught you some lessons, which is pretty apparent.
Oh, yeah. I think, there's times, I think we've all done our kids' homework to a certain extent, like, let's be honest.
Yep.
And my dad used to go and he did like my salt and flour map. Do you remember salt and flour maps when we were in school? Oh, you had to make like a map of California out of salt and flour. I'm totally aging myself right now. But my dad did my sisters and he did mine and he did my younger sisters. And I got the worst grade on mine. And he's like, but I did the same thing. And he went in and talked to the teacher because he was so irate, like that my salt and flour map didn't get an A like my sister's. And she was, telling him why it didn't get an A. And I'm like, Dad, you should have let me do it. I knew what I was doing, but he did the whole thing. But I never learned from that. I still do that with my kids. Like all the ones, the science projects where I'm like, aren't you proud of what we did? And they're like, you did it, Darn it.
Dang.
But I'm learning.
Yeah.
So
you're probably trying to break the cycle a little bit, right? Maybe by the last one.
Well, with Levi and Noah, like the girls, my daughter Eden and my other daughter Kiara are always saying, like, how do they get away with that? Like, we would never have gotten away with that. I'm like, you guys, this is the face of a mom who's given up. I'm just kidding. But
by the time you get to 5 and 6.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, how much candy do you want? Like, give it just in pounds. Like, what do you mean to just leave me alone? But like, it's gotten easier. And I told Kiara and my daughter Eden, like, we didn't have iPads. Like, we didn't have iPhones. Like, you guys couldn't have played with my phone. It was like a flip phone with like a picture of the time.
And the game, like the snake game on it.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Tetris.
You wouldn't have wanted to do that. Like, that was boring. So I'm like, we're in a different era. Like, it's easy to hand them my phone and they play Pokemon Go. And it's like, it is lazy parenting to a certain extent. But at the same time, it's like, hey, I need 10 minutes to drive my car and not be bothered. Like, it's easy, and I'm going to do it. And if you judge me, go ahead, But it's funny, the difference between raising my first 4 to my last 2. Like, it's night and day. It's night and day.
That's so funny.
And they notice the difference.
Oh, I'm sure they do. I know they do. I know even my kids notice. How come she got that and I didn't? I'm like, I don't know, because it's just easier. It's just so much easier to spoil her than it was for you, because I was really worried about screwing you up. And by her, I'm just like, I'm
not worried about her. She's great.
She's going to be fine.
Exactly. It's funny though. But living where I do in like Orange County and like, where the marvelous mom meter is really high, you gotta look a certain way, you have to act a certain way, you have to drive a certain car. My second oldest daughter Lily goes to a school in a very nice area, and I'm like, are we the only people without a Land Rover? Like, I'm out of place here, and our Nissan. But it's hard not to judge yourself against those standards, and even today I was telling my husband, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was in line at Lily's school, and there was a mom like icing her lips and her face because she had clearly like just gotten like all this work done. I'm like, wow, like it's a lot of work.
A lot of work to be that
mom
fantastic.
At this area, to be that fantastic, and I'm like, I think I'm not going to get there.
Like I'm good okay with my Nissan. I'm totally fine over here.
I'm fine over here, like, but it takes a long time to get there. It takes, to not measure yourself against other people, because you don't know what they're going through or what it looks like behind the scenes, or you don't know how much trash is in their Land Rover that you can't see,
Exactly.
like it's like, we don't know what every person has a different struggle. So, but as a young mom way back when, I was always trying to I want my girls to match, like that's what they remember, like buying them the Gap kids dresses that matched, and like, no one will judge me if they're matching, like they won't know what's going on inside the home.
No, they won't know that they are like incredibly difficult if they match. We got to make it look good on the outside.
Got to distract them with the magic outfits. Jot that down, moms.
Okay. That's going in the show notes. Matching outfits is the key to success. Check. Or appeared success.
Check.
You are
but
so
this is
funny.
What you think of, though, when you're a new mom, you're like, oh, my child needs a big bow for their hair, or I'm going to look like I don't care, and we need that certain stroller. But like by the time you get to 5 and 6, I'm like, let's go get a stroller from the garage sale. We're good, folks.
Exactly.
Like I'm over it.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's kind of freeing,
I'm sure it is. And you're like, why couldn't I have had this perspective with 1, 2, 3, and 4? Exactly. That would make my life so much easier if all I worried about was my own opinion. Yeah, so much money saved. So much better on my savings. Okay, so 2 more questions, and you've already answered the one, but you are a reader, which I love. So tell everybody what you're reading right now.
I just reread 1,000 Gifts by Anne Voskamp, which is the best book to read if you want to feel better about your lot in life, and just it's about being thankful and counting your blessings every day and physically journaling them. So if you read them, she does prompt you to journal, and I highly recommend it.
Cool. Oh, I like that.
My second one, my daughter just took it out of my room.
Which is the Red
is the Red Queen series, because I will admit that I love teen fiction. And I don't know if you'll edit this out or not, but I don't. I was like a huge Twilight person. I don't know if you were.
Oh yeah.
Didn't.
It wasn't. Come on.
Doesn't want their husband to sparkle. Secret life of moms. But I love like youth fiction and like young adult fiction. You'll always find me in that area, like at Barnes and Noble, and my girls are like, "Why are you here?"
I feel like it's cleaner though. If you read some adult stuff, it's too much. It's a little more PG when you read the teen stuff.
It's the Red Queen series, and the first book is the Red Queen, and it's phenomenal. If you liked Hunger Games or Twilight, super good.
Good to know. All right, we'll link to both of those in the show notes so everybody can check them out. And then finally, since you kind of touched on this, but you can give us a concrete answer. What makes you a marvelous mom?
Okay. This is a hard one.
Yes,
I know people
You can
struggle.
Do this.
I could do this. Take a deep breath. I think what makes me marvelous mom is that I never give up. And that I could find the humor in mostly anything. So at the end of the day, if we're laughing and we're not crying, then it's a win. But just that I learned from my mistakes mostly above anything else.
I love both of those parts to your answer, and I think they're both totally true. I think you're awesome. I love this. I love getting to know new people who come like down the chain from guests. Like I feel like I don't even remember how I met Shannon, but I feel like this is like 3rd or 4th level deep from the first person I interviewed, and that is the best thing.
She's like the Kevin Bacon to the 6 Degrees of Separation. That Shannon Kempner. Love her.
It's so awesome. Well, thank you for spending time with me, chatting and sharing your stories of motherhood. I love being able to share all of these, and I appreciate you sharing yours with me so I can share it with everybody else.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's been super fun.
Good. All right, guys, everybody listening, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode. Have a marvelous day. Hey, Marvelous Moms. Are you planning a trip to Disneyland anytime soon? If so, I have an amazing resource for you. I recently published an e-guide that will get you through the park and have the most amazing experience possible. Since I'm a Disney fanatic and I go all the time with my 3 kids, many of those times I go alone, people are asking me all the time, how do you do Disneyland? What's the best way to do it? What's the cheapest way to do it? So I'm putting all of my tips and tricks into a guide for you. So go check it out right now at DisneylandAdventure.com and get your copy. I have one for each park, or you can get both. It's an awesome deal, and I want you to get the absolute most out of your Disneyland vacation, because after all, you've worked really hard for it. So go check it out, DisneylandAdventure.com.